Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and today is the day we're going to take a deep dive into the meta after the latest balance patch, right? We've had quite a bit of time for the results to come in, and it is looking bleak for the latest expansion, and we're gonna have to go through some pretty rough truths about this expansion, how I truly believe it's kind of destined to fail in the short term unless major things happen one way or the other, and neither are probably a good thing for the game. It's just a really crappy situation all around. We're gonna go into it, but you know it's bad when Reddit is posting, is Zeddy correct? Recording this video early in the afternoon, so by tomorrow, I can't imagine what the replies will be like, but in like 2 hours, 560 upvotes, 91% upvoted, and like over 200 comments. It's like a Zeddy YouTube video. People going wild. There's people calling me a raging neckbeard who clickbaits, and there's people that are actually talking about the tweet where I say it's odd to see people call for mass buffs. Do we want a world where quest decks are strong enough to compete with Dorian Warlock, OTKs from Druid on turn 8? That actually might be a bit slow, but regardless, zero mana giants from Paladin and Rogue on turn 4. There is no scenario where that makes Hearthstone a better game, and I truly believe that. But at the end of the day, these quests, in order for them to be playable, have got to compete with the more modern decks. And we're going to take a look at how bleak the situation looks, looking at stats and my proposed solutions. I just don't know. Like, they're in such a bad spot. It's actually insane. Anyways, we'll take a look. If you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like, as it helps us out a ton to keep on growing and whining and apparently rage baiting and being a I mean, I got a beard, I guess. It's like part of my neck, kind of. You can't really see, it's too long. Regardless, there's points all around. But yeah, I wanted to take a look at the first part that's actually good after this latest balance patch. Remember before the last patch, there was like 5 or 6 classes nearing sub 40%? Well, in standard, no class is sub 40% anymore. Every class is at least competing across all ranks, right? This is across all ranks, not the greatest metric, but in comparison to that last patch, it's a world above, right? It's so much better in that regard. Probably one of the only ways it's better. However, when we're looking at the Lost City of Un'Goro, major theme for the expansion is the quest, and we take a look at the meta. Yeah, it's not much better than it was before the expansion. It is actually, expansion launch, sorry. It is actually better, significantly better, because a lot of the quests were like sub 30%. Almost none of them were around 40%. If we go down to the bottom, this is at Legend since the latest patch. That's where all the quests are. They're still all at the bottom, but you'll note only 2 of them are now sub 40%. That's right. They managed to actually move the win rate significantly on almost every quest, including Quest Mage, which didn't get buffed, which again is a telltale sign that the best buff for any deck has always been nerfs, because it lets other decks catch up. The problem is it's got to catch up to a lot of decks, right? But yeah, Quest Hunter, Quest DK, Quest Priest, Quest Shaman, Quest Demon Hunter, all pretty darn bad. And then of course Quest Rogue is literally unplayable because there's no good shuffle cards. It's really slow. But I wanted to point something out that I found really fascinating. Again, yet another Reddit thread where this is kind of the issue with the expansion and why so much of it feels destined to fail, is this thread saying, I'm going to say it, I'm happy Quest Rogue is unplayable. I'm a dumpster legend and I do face a fair amount of Quest Rogue, and bless them for trying to make one of the worst decks in the game work. But facing them, I came to the realization that while it's sad that so many quests are unplayable, I'm happy that Quest Rogue specifically is unplayable. And it's simply because if it was good, how do you think it would be played? Some sort of control-ish deck that aimed to overwhelm with infinite ninjas? Nah, it'd be an Asteroid Incendius deck, and I don't know for you, I personally have my fill of those. So yeah, the quest seems like it could be fun, but as long as its potential best version is the same game plan we've seen so many times since the Great Dark Beyond's release, I'm happy to see this deck stay in the gutter. And that's the problem, right? Like that's, when I played Theory Crafting and I faced it and I rage quit against Theo, right? When he was playing Quest Rogue, He had the asteroids like in City. It wasn't the legendaries. It was nothing like that. And that's basically what it would become. So you have that problem, right? With the quests, if they're too good, people will hate them more than basically any deck out there right now. Honestly, right? Like, I still see tons of complaints right now about Quest Paladin, which is hovering around 51% at Legend, and you go to top 1k, this is why the pros always make fun of people for not, you know, beating that deck. At top 1k, it goes all the way down to 44%. It is one of the worst performing decks at top 1k, at least that are played regularly, right? But you've seen so much. People just can't stand that quest. I will admit, though, compared to the other quests, it's not nearly as sexy or interesting. It's just murlocs and stats, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's like the only quest that's been like good, and it doesn't have the fun and flavor of the other quests. But at the end of the day, the reason I say this expansion is in a no-win situation is, yes, we have these quests at the bottom. They're actually not that far off, like less than 10%, not that far off. But to get there, they have to get over a bunch of other decks. The problem is these decks have a very similar trait to them in order for quests to be able to compete with them, and that is their outright ability to mana cheat, scam, and turn Hearthstone into a single player adventure. And that's the issue I have. We have so many of these decks, like Hand Buff Hunter, one of the best decks again, which just vomits insane stats, turns 3, 4, and 5, and that's it. That's all the deck does, right? By the time you've even completed your quest or complete your reward, the game is decided by then against that deck. It is very quick. Dummy Warrior is another new deck to pop up that's just another scam deck of cheating out giant mechs, copying them. Again, all by the time you can even get to your quest reward. So again, we'd have to catch up to the progress of Dummy Warrior if we want to go the buff route. Beast Hunter is just a good aggressive deck. I have no issues with that deck. If there were more decks like Beast Hunter that are good in the game, that would be a good thing. I'm happy to see that there because it's a board-based aggro deck with some limited bursts. That, like, maybe it's a little overtuned. I don't care. Don't touch Beast Hunter, right? But then Agabagad Warlock, or the whole Puppet Master Dorian Warlock, again, another super scam deck where you play Dorian on like 4 or 5 if you ramped, and then cheat 1 billion mana and either kill your opponent or create an unanswerable board. Again, by the time I'm playing my quest reward, right? Like, it's just not a reality. And Cycle Rogue, back to being arguably the best deck in the game, even though Phoenix got nerfed, it gets 0 mana giants out by turns 4 and 5, and either wins or loses by then, again, before any quest, a reward can become relevant. Bandage Priest, shockingly, a 6 attack Wilted Shadow, or whatever it's called, is still really good at killing people and can do so as early as like turn 6, 7, whatever, right? You bring it back, you play whatever. It's another deck that is like outright OTK, doesn't care about the board for the most part. It just has its own issues. Space Demon Hunter is just, again, Arcanite Defense Crystal gaining 1 billion armor, and so on and so on. We even have Dollhouse Druid, which is another OTK deck, and it's even worse at top 1000 Legend. It's like all just scams. This Aggro Paladin has no data, but Buff Hunter, Cycle Rogue, Wheel Warlock, Dorian Warlock, Drunk Paladin, which has been nerfed how many times? Again, the rogue stuff, it just never ends, right? The problems I'm seeing, if people that want the quest to be buffed to catch up to this stuff, they have to be buffed in a way that they're winning faster or at the same speed as these decks, which, if that's happening, my god, we're quest completing on 3, playing the reward on 4. Every deck is basically quest Warlock, which still isn't doing well enough to be super competitive at high legend, just good enough that, like, again, how is that a winning scenario? That would be a nightmare. That would be United in Stormwind 2.0. Do we want that? Maybe some pro players do. Outside of that, I feel like not so much. The other solution, which I feel like pretending to do while not really doing it, is actually nuke all of these scam decks, right? Cycle Rogue got the Phoenix slightly changed. Drunk Paladin had Aegis of Light go to 2 mana, or the Brew lose an attack buff. We're not seeing the actual significant nerfs that are required to actually dial these decks down, so we're not seeing the same decks over and over. It used to be Starving Buzzard's too good, that goes to 5 mana, right? I know that's an extreme example, but we're at the point where we have these same decks dominating and winning in such egregious ways, and we're not seeing drastic enough nerfs for that to change. It just isn't happening. Buffs have been enough for the quest to be slightly more playable, right? 10% is nothing to scoff at. At the same time, unless you're doing the most insane over-the-top buffs, nothing will change at the top unless you do insane over-the-top nerfs. Neither seem like a great situation, right? It's like a no-win situation we've been put into because we have allowed this power level to fester, build, grow for year after year after year, expansion after expansion. When we finally, basically Great Dark Beyond, they finally decided we're going to start scaling power level back. You can't just do that with a couple of band-aids, with a couple of changes. It has to be sweeping. It has to be really bold and fearless, like they like to say, if they want it to happen. Or you go the other route, just say, screw it. We don't care that these are scam decks, and they're almost all the scam decks are dominating at top legend. Like again, top 1K on HS Guru. We have a scam deck, a scam deck, a scam deck, an aggro deck, a scam deck, infinite armor, OTK, infinite armor, OTK, and then we get to the point where they're like 50%, right? Like that to me is an interesting gameplay. And I've seen a lot of comments like Zeddy never puts out what kind of decks he wants to see. You just use the simple word of Hearthstone decks. Hearthstone decks that have incremental value, incremental board battles, and can be won through back and forths with a bit of elements of random thrown in. Not just I play one massive blowout turn and I win, or I didn't do it and I lose, or they did it faster than me and I lost, or the alternative, which is I OTK'd you, it's over, that's it. Or the other alternative is I've gained so much armor, you can't do anything, and the game is basically over from that. There's not really back and forth on the board. There's not really incremental value like all the old decks used to do way back in the day. The old OTK decks, they required so much setup. You had to jump through all these hoops like Freeze Mage, you had Alex Straza, Ice Block, discount my hand. Like there was so many things you had to do. Now you just do it on curve with like minimal effort, right? Ultimately, how do we fix this situation? How do we make these quests playable or better that people aren't upset about it? There's only really two ways about it at this point. Subtle buffs aren't going to work. Subtle nerfs aren't going to work. You need either harsh nerfs and subtle buffs or harsh buffs and subtle nerfs, right? Like it's one way or the other. And the fact that they've been actively trying to lower power level, and to me, I'd like to play a bit more traditional Hearthstone since I'm not allowed to in Twist, since that apparently doesn't exist. I would like to see it exist more in Hearthstone, where the arena is really the only place I get that feeling these days. And even there, you can draft Escape the Underfell these days and have a near 70% win rate because, hey, look at that. Quests are broken, just not necessarily in standard right now. So yeah, I don't know what the balance team is going to do to try and get out of this situation. It is absolutely brutal. Could just, stay the course, let things be like this. And then next year, when all the old stuff rotates, we have like one of the most balanced, altered type of states we've ever seen in Hearthstone. Because if you play the early access brawls, you know how much the game feels without starships, without tourists and all of that. It's a whole different game, so we'll see. Or maybe they go crazy. Rotate StarCraft. Rotate last year's expansions early. Get in Baku, the whole damn thing. But yeah, dust refunds, all that. None of that will happen. Be very curious to see. One thing's for sure, it ain't my job to figure it out, so we'll see what they end up doing. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.